Tired of listening to the same old boring podcast bull? Then tune in to the Unnamed podcast, available on Anchor.fm and Spotify.com. You're listening to the Unnamed podcast with Midnight Lunatic, available on Anchor.fm and Spotify.com. And without further ado, here is your host, Midnight Lunatic.
What up, Midnight Crew, and welcome to another episode of Unnamed Podcast. As always, I am your hostess with the mostest, Midnight Lunatic, coming on here. Season 3, what is it, episode 3, episode 4? I don't remember, I lost track. But anyways, I am here with a very, very special guest with me today. And as you could hear, he does have a baby on him, and he's enjoying life right now. He's having a good time. But let me introduce you to my host and one of my good friends from work, Tim. How's it going, Tim?
Not too bad. How are you doing yourself?
I'm doing all right. Kind of excited. And for the first time ever in the podcast, I mean, you guys won't see it, you guys won't hear it, but as we're recording this, we're actually in the middle of playing baseball right now because, you know, you got to try something different once in a while, right? Well, anyways, before we start today's topics, Tim, how about we do something I like to call Fact of the Week?
It's everybody's favorite time of the week. It's time for the fact of the week.
So get this. There are more stars in the sky than grains of sand on the earth.
That's interesting. I never knew that.
I mean, think about that. Like, there's so much sand, right? There's so much sand in the world, and yet there's more stars than anything else. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's interesting because we live in the desert, and you would think there's more dirt
Right.
all around here than would be stars.
Right. I don't know, man. I don't know. The universe is it's one to not be reckoned with, man. There's a lot of interesting stuff out there in the universe. Well, since we are playing baseball, I think it's appropriate to make this an all sports, podcast episode. And speaking of sports, we're going to talk about NFL because NFL has a lot of interesting things going on in the league. So to start us out, Alex Smith. Did you hear about this guy? Alex Smith, after a 693 days, after breaking his leg, right? Almost 700 days without playing in the league, finally made his return to the field.
It's an incredible story what he went through just to get out there to start playing.
After undergoing 17 surgeries and surviving a life-threatening infection, he was inserted into the game against the Rams and started as starting quarterback. And he led the Washington football team to a field goal in his first drive back. Now look, a touchdown would have been good, but like field goal, that's pretty good too, right?
Just getting back on the field after everything he has overcome with his injury.
Yeah.
And I remember watching the play against the Texans when he took a sack and seeing the replay of it, and you could tell it was not a pretty sight to see.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even realize he got hurt. I didn't realize he got injured. I don't really know the full story behind that, but I mean, for someone, to put everything on the line into football and want to make a return and come back stronger than ever, and his family was there in the stands too. And I'm pretty sure it was a very emotional time for them as well.
I mean, it's not a good time for them because they had lost. But at the same time, the bigger picture is he actually came on to the field, become a starting quarterback, and I'm looking forward to see what he could do with the Washington team. I mean, I'm an Eagles fan, But it'd be interesting to see what they do with him if they make him a starter for the rest of the year.
Now, you say you're an Eagles fan, and I think that's funny because our two teams faced earlier today.
Yeah, we have Steve Urkel out there as a referee today making bad calls.
So the Steelers and the Eagles, for those that didn't know, play today. And, man, those refs today, I mean, they were making some horrible, horrible calls today.
Yes, they were. There was actually a time where the tight end from the Steelers had caught the ball and took a shot and fumbled the ball, and they called it incomplete pass. And I remember the rule book, he took the 1 or 2 steps, turned his body. That's usually a fumble. But it was a good game. You could see both teams fought it out towards the end.
Yeah, there also was that one call where they called pass interference for pushing off the players. It was offensive pass interference. I didn't like that call. I didn't see no push off. All I saw was the guy kind of tripped over his own, feet or whatever. I didn't see no push off.
No, there wasn't. He, as an Eagles fan, we've never had these corners, and we have all these unnamed corners, and you can see in the video that he had slipped. But the way that the Steelers receiver was running with his hands out, the referees have taken a call pass interference. But just think about this. The referees right now are actually not the real referees that we're used to having. These are people that are getting trained to become referees. So these are like
that's right.
In 2012 when Green Bay and Seattle were Wilson threw that pick and they called it a touchdown. It's the same referees as them.
Right. Yeah, that Steve Urkel guy, man. Man, that guy was something else, all right.
It was funny.
Well,
all they needed to put on was the Family Matters theme song when he came up.
So look, the Saints wide receiver Michael Thomas, right? Michael Thomas is a big player. He's one of the top players, I think, in the Saints, lineup. He was actually ruled out of the game against the Chargers.
It's interesting because we saw this before the season started with Earl Thomas and the Baltimore Ravens when he got into it with one of the rookies that they had just drafted in the secondary. And what the reports are is Michael Thomas had got into it with one of the players during practice week, and for that, they benched him for the game against, I believe it's the Chargers on Monday night.
Yeah, Chargers.
I think here in the next, I'll give it about another week or two, you can see Michael Thomas get traded because a lot of teams don't want to deal with that.
Yeah,
and the same thing with Earl Thomas.
I think, having a conflict within the team, it brings down the team's morale, I guess you can say. Like, people don't want to work with people that have, like, big egos or, like, an attitude.
Exactly.
Your team should be your family. You should take care of each other, make sure that everyone's healthy, stays on top. Don't be fighting with each other. That's you're supposed to be your family. That's your support.
Exactly, and if I remember correctly, the Saints had some issues before the season with Drew Brees, with the politics, which we're not going to talk about that because everyone just has their own opinions, and
right.
That's for them. And I think with all that happening, the chemistry for the Saints have not been the same since Drew Brees came out and said what he did. He lost respect from Michael Jenkins, which was a big pickup for them for that secondary to help them out because they've never had the best secondary. And now you have Michael Thomas get into, fights with the other players on the team. I think here in the next couple of weeks, you can see Michael Thomas either request for a trade or the Saints are just going to get rid of him because they don't want that on their team.
I mean, I wouldn't doubt him actually getting fined or possibly, have to put out an apology.
Well, I think he'll apologize because that's the right thing to do. But if you look at the Earl Thomas thing with the Ravens, he apologized and he got a fine. And for whatever reason, the Ravens just let him go like nothing happened. And he was the big part of the reason why their defense was so good a year ago. I mean, the defense is still good now, but a year ago they had one of the best defense and one of the best secondaries, and sometimes you have to get rid of your best players if they cause issues. And it's not like they're hurting on receivers. They have a bunch of young receivers that can put up numbers. They have a 1-2 punch with the running backs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, pretty soon they're going to be rebuilding because Drew Brees is up in that age where they don't really have a quarterback to take over.
Right, man.
Because if I remember right, one of the backups is Pick Six. He was with the Buccaneers. I can't think of his name. Oh, Jameson Winston. He was with the Buccaneers. And, I think at this time they should trade some of their players away because they're not even having that good of a season.
So you think doing a trade would help?
I think if they are really mad about it and they know it's going to cause more problems down the road, it might be best just to get rid of someone that is going to cause problems. Here's another idea, or another thing to think about. Remember when the corner from the, I believe he's with the Ravens. He was with Kansas City, Marcus Peters. He had such a hard time and such a big problem for Kansas City a few years ago that they had traded him away because of all the issues that he had on the field. Right. I remember once he got a flag in the game, he picked the flag up and looked at the referee and threw in the stands, and they
I remember
took him
that
out
game.
after that.
I remember that. There was who he was playing with the Chiefs. I think it was last year. He got into some troubles, and then the Chiefs kicked him from the team. It was Kareem Hunt. There you go. Yes, Kareem Hunt. I remember that. Yeah. I remember that.
He got in some trouble with the law, and then they released him, and then he signed with the Cleveland Browns, and he did get suspended for the first 8 games or 4 games last year, and he took the punishment, and now if I remember right, he's a starting running back right now for Cleveland because their Nick Chubb got injured against the Cowboys, which it wasn't a fair tackle. The Cowboy guy literally just sat on his leg.
Yeah, and then there was who was it? Antonio Brown. How did I forget that name? Antonio Brown last season or 2 seasons ago. Man,
Antonio Brown.
Look, that guy. I gotta admit, he's a good football player. He is. He makes unbelievable catches. He's fast. He's got the speed. He's got the hands. But his ego, man, he needs to let that stuff go. His ego is what's keeping him out from the league. He thinks he's so much better than anyone else and that he's entitled to everything that it's costing him.
Exactly. He's like one of the Kim Kardashians with all the fame on him, and in the NFL, if you want to make it, you have to let your ego put it on the side and play as a team player.
Exactly. Yep. And he wasn't like that. He was jealous whenever he was with the Steelers because Juju Smith-Schuster was getting all the catches and all the attention, and he wanted it. He wanted to be in the spotlight. He didn't want the rookies to take over his spot. And it's like, as a leader, you're supposed to help your rookies become as great as you. Because if you make your rookies as good as you are or even better, you're building up that dynasty for your team to be great and to make it to Super Bowls and beat every team. And when you're not that leader to do that, your team's going to suffer from that.
Exactly. And to be honest, I think Juju's a little bit better than Antonio Brown. He can catch the ball. He's more of a team player all around.
And he's definitely matured. He's definitely matured over the past couple seasons too, I've noticed.
Exactly. I mean, we saw today with the Steelers versus the Eagles how
he
wasn't getting the ball. Yeah, and he wasn't getting the ball that much. They had another receiver that was catching everything, but he still didn't throw fit like Antonio Brown would have in this game.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and, sometimes when you're a good player, you have to take the double team or triple team. Look at Zach Ertz.
Yep.
He's probably the third best tight end in the league right now, and he took a lot of double and triple double teams, and we had a nobody player that we just signed last Saturday to practice squad have a breakout game because no one knew about him. And sometimes these big time players, even though they're not catching the ball and doing what they're supposed to help a team, they are helping the team by taking the extra coverage on them.
Right.
So the younger receivers and someone that never gets the ball that much gets the chance to try to build that chemistry with your quarterback.
Being a team player, yep.
And and nowadays you don't see it that much as team players. You see a lot of people wanting the ball to themselves, and that's not the right thing to do.
Yeah, it's those egos, man. People just gotta let that stuff go and just be a leader.
Exactly.
Like
take
we pride in your team.
Exactly. We had that issue as an Eagles fan when we had brought in Alshon Jeffries over in a free agent signing where he was mad that he wasn't getting the ball. The ball was going to a guy named Jordan Matthews and Zach Ertz all the time. But as a team player, he was taking the double coverages because everyone knows he'll jump and catch the ball and make those plays that you need.
Right. Well, how about the Broncos and Patriots game being postponed until next Sunday?
I'm kind of, it's interesting because we've had 3 games in the past 2 weeks get moved, postponed, or changed, and a lot of it is just because of this virus.
Yeah, there's been a lot of players that have become positive for the virus, and to think that the season wasn't gonna be affected by this, dreams are gone. Like, and I think NFL should have been prepared for this, and it doesn't look like they were prepared for any of this. It looked like what they wanted the season just to go on the way it was, that everyone was just going to always test negative, when in reality, like, this is still a pandemic. We're still in it, and it's not going away anytime soon. And, they weren't prepared. At least with baseball, they're prepared where, if they had to postpone games or delay games or whatever, they had a plan for that.
Exactly. And on top of that, baseball shortened the season from 162 games to
60
games. And it does affect teams because some teams start off slow. Like, for one team, the Colorado Rockies, they always start off slow and then they finish red hot. And when you cut a team season like that big of a cut, it affects a lot of teams.
You're taking away half the season there, yeah.
Yeah. And, it's the same thing as like the Tennessee Titans. They were supposed to play the Steelers a week ago, and some players tested positive, and then you had Cam Newton test positive, and then you had Stephon Gilmore test positive from the
and what tripped
Patriots.
Me out about the Gilmore one was that was it Monday, whenever they played the Chiefs, Gilmore actually was making a lot of contact with players because he was a big part in that game. And, was shaking hands with everyone after the game, like Patrick Mahomes and everything. I don't know how those players did not test positive after being in contact with him.
Exactly. And, I get they want to make the season. They want, everyone to have football for the fall time. But sometimes, instead of putting what makes people happy, you need to start talking about what makes the fans, what makes these players happy, because they want to play football, but a lot of these players have families back home. They have kids, and a lot of them are going to want to go home and see their kids and not be positive and give it to their families.
Yeah.
Because you really don't know if you have it or not. Look, for example, The Rock. He had close family come home or come visit,
right?
And him and his family at home tested positive, and they had no idea.
Oh yeah.
And
I talked about that a couple weeks back.
Yeah, as me being a parent, like I have a son, and every day in my mind, I don't want to wear a mask, but to me, I do it because I don't want to give it to my son. And I know one of the players from Pittsburgh, or not Pittsburgh, it was the Patriots. He said that he feels like the NFL doesn't care about their safety, and seeing everything that's going on, I can see that. Where
It seems
sometimes,
like NFL is just out to kind of just make money.
yeah, and they're not making money this year because there's no fans in some places able to go to a game. I know some places are barely letting in fans. I think the Arizona Cardinals about a couple weeks ago against I believe it was the Lions or one of the teams where they allowed the families of team members come watch the game.
Right.
And then if everything came out good, no one has a positive, they were gonna let I think 10% of the fans come watch the game inside the stadium.
Now, as a part of like a player's family, are they getting tested also?
Yes, after they will test them before the game, and then I believe they have to get tested. They get tested 3 times. I think they get tested before the game during the weekdays while they're practicing, and then they get tested at the game, and then before they go home, they get tested as well to make sure everything went correct. But they're doing the 6 feet away, so you don't have a bunch of people next to each other. I
Well,
believe they had split it up between. I believe all the families of the players were sitting on the home side of by the Cardinals, and they just split them up, so it wasn't like a group of people in one little area like a moss pit.
right. Well, I know NFL protocols actually prohibit handshakes after games, but I see a lot of players still doing it.
Yeah, and that's one thing that if a big owner like the NFL sees that, they should put their foot down and say, hey, no handshakings. You can say, stand 6 feet away, talk to them, everything you want to do. Like forget, they said that no one could swap jerseys, and that's a big thing in the NFL because
Yep.
some of these rookies have played together on teams playing against each other for the first time, and they can't even swap jerseys.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, I think that's retarded. I think if they want to swap jerseys, they can,
I mean, you gotta
let
wash those
them do
jerseys
it.
anyways, right? Like,
Yeah,
and most
let them,
players like
you know,
they don't put them on. They like to
no,
frame them.
exactly. Like Beckham Jr. before he was traded to the Browns, his best friend that was um traded to the Browns, Landry, they swapped jerseys, and Beckham Jr. didn't wash it, he framed it. And I think if they still want to do that, you can let them do that. Hey, you can mail to this person, hey, wait outside the locker room.
Right.
And, but sometimes people make mistakes, and, you'll see people still going out and doing stuff they're not supposed to, or you see people going, out to the movies. And yeah, like I work by a movie theater, and I see a lot of people coming in and out of there, but they stop showing movies past 10 o'clock. But what is that supposed to do? That doesn't do nothing for you.
Well, I'm pretty sure the way that they seat people, like it's only half capacity in those theaters, so they probably have like a 2 chair like distance apart from each other. Like I'm pretty sure that's what movie theaters are kind of doing right now, where they're like trying to do 6 feet. So I think like 2 chairs apart is close enough to about 6 feet apart.
Yeah, and then if you look at the NFL or any sport, it's all contact, so you're right by each other. Like even
Right.
baseball, when you have a batter, you still have the catcher right there. You still have the umpire. What if they have it?
Right. I mean,
And
I'm pretty sure like umpires, refs, like they all get tested too, like same as players.
I think the umpires and referees get tested more than the players do.
Really?
Yes, if I remember right, the MLB has the referees getting tested a little bit more just because they have to travel more than these players. Like, for example, in the bubble, you had these teams for NBA and then NHL do this bubble thing where the referees were all still the same, but they traveled and they do the testing. In the NFL and in MLB, you have these umpires that, don't travel with the team. They come
Right.
around from different places to help out. Like they have their own little crew, but some of them are not from that area.
Right.
And, this is like with that Florida governor.
The
He
Florida,
wants the
yes.
stadiums to be full packed with
Yeah,
fans.
I
And
think that's stupid. I think that's the most ridiculous thing. If Florida could not get any more stupider, this is like that cherry on the top of the cake. Like, how stupid can Florida be?
exactly, because you know what? You can have all these people inside there, but at the end of the day, when someone tests positive, you're putting college students at risk. You're putting families that bring their kids to these games at risk. And then once the virus goes in, it's gonna start spreading quickly where some of these colleges are gonna have to do online school, and sometimes online schooling is not the best for kids because sometimes they need someone in front of them to
Right.
actually teach them.
Yeah, I mean, my
And with
mom's a teacher, and she says that it's a pain right now doing it all online. And I was talking to her, and I was like, so what happens with like the special needs kids that like need that one-on-one with the teachers and that need that like actual, not the actual like one-on-one face-to-face kind of stuff. And she was like, my mom's like, well, they're still able to do the online if they choose to, if the parents choose to do it. But what's going to happen is schools are going to start allowing the special needs and like a certain grade of students to start coming into the school to get like their actual one-on-one face-to-face confrontations with the teachers.
Yeah.
And I think that's good, but like at the same time, like, man, I don't think it's gonna help. And you said the Florida wanting to refill the stadiums. I mean, just thinking about that, like the Dolphin Stadium can hold up to 65,000 people. So that's 65,000 plus fans that are now, out and could potentially now get the virus because Florida is a hot spot. It's a hot spot state, same as us here in Arizona. Like it's not going to help with the virus. And
No,
to
it's
make
not.
the stadium full capacity, it's just putting more people at risk, especially every week. There's going to be different people showing up every week. It's a no-go. It's stupid. The governor should really rethink his actions before he puts them in state, man.
Exactly, because if you're gonna sit there and let these people come back full, have everyone at every single game, high school level, college level, pros level, you're putting all these people at risk. And what's gonna happen when you test positive? You're gonna have to go under another lockdown, and most people are going to get mad about the lockdown because you're the one that said, hey, let's fill these stadiums up because you want to get money
Mm-hmm.
for the state. And sometimes money is not what matters the most. It's all about making sure everyone is okay, everyone's healthy. Until they get the cure for this virus, you're going to see a lot of teams and a lot of these superstar players lose money because of this virus, and that's okay because at the end of the day, it comes down to us Americans to make sure we're healthy, make sure there's no virus, make sure everything's okay.
Right.
And if I remember right, Florida is the only state that's allowing full fans to be able to go to all the games.
I mean,
I'm even
as
here
have I
for
heard, yeah, Florida is the only one. I know a state, I think it was Mississippi, somewhere over there, like in the southern part of the U.S. I know that they actually uplifted their mask mandate, so people no longer have to wear masks out in public.
Oh, that was Michigan that had
Was it
done that.
Michigan? Are you sure? I thought it was somewhere down south.
Michigan, well, I know Michigan just recently did it last week, and I don't understand why they would do that. I would still be making sure there's a cure for this virus because if these people get it, it gets passed around, and as us people like to watch sports, that's going to ruin it for a lot of people because what if it gets to, you know, the Detroit Lions?
Right.
Or the college football teams, because look at the Pac-12 and the Big Ten. They weren't going to play this season because of the virus. And now I believe the Pac-12 will start playing their first game. I believe it's on November 7th, if I remember correctly. And then the Big Ten, I think they open up their season here in about a week or two. And I'm just sitting there like, Michigan is saying you don't have to wear masks no more, but these teams travel and you can catch this virus by traveling. I don't care if you wear a mask, there's still a chance that one of these college teams can not know that they have the virus. Because you could check someone and they could pull negative and then 3 days later have the virus. Because you don't show symptoms right away. I have an aunt that works in the hospital field and she caught the virus. It took her 2 weeks until she found out she had caught the virus, and she was testing negative during those 2 weeks. And at the hospital, they have the full gear, everything protecting them, and they still caught it.
Right.
And like you said, what Florida is saying, everyone can come here. It's not a smart choice at all.
Yeah, I think it's the most ridiculous thing a governor can do right now. And I get it, they want sports back and fans are, complaining that they can't go support their team. But, just watching the game and knowing that you are supporting your team in some way, shape, or form, I mean, that's got to be good enough for right now. I mean, we can go 1 year without being able to fully attend a game. I know I can. Watching it on TV... is more than enough. At least we have sports back, people should be happy that we at least have sports.
Exactly. For me, I wanted to take my son to see the Eagles game because it's been a while since they've played where I live at. And this year, around Christmas time, they come to play the Arizona Cardinals. And I was like, sweet, maybe everything will be okay, and then I can actually bring him in to watch the game. But with the virus still going around, I'm just like, no, it's not worth it. Instead of spending money, instead of sitting there doubting myself or thinking about myself and me wanting to go to the game, I'm like, instead of, support my team, I'll buy him a jersey. Because that money does go to the teams.
Right.
And that's supporting your team as well.
Exactly, yeah.
And that's safer than spending, $300 just to fly, to whatever team you like, paying another $200 to go to a stadium. And
exposing yourself. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Your life is not worth $500 to expose yourself where you can go home, make whatever food you want to do, watch the game, and buy jerseys, hats, socks, whatever you want, whatever your team has.
And drink a beer that does not cost $7 for a beer.
Exactly. You could spend $7. You could spend $5 more and get yourself a 12-pack.
Exactly. Yeah. So
and it's not worth your risk.
Speaking of things getting canceled, the NFL has elected to cancel the Titans season as punishment for violating the COVID-19 protocol.
Yeah, the Tennessee Titans made a mistake, and like most teams, they tested positive. And there's players that, they want to keep playing. They want to not just take a break and sit around like a couch potato, and they still wanted to work out. But there's teams that have players work out at their own house to keep in shape for it. Well, Tennessee Titans, some of the players went to a local high school and were working out in a local high school. When the player had tested positive, and then he went over to, I believe what happened was he went over to a couple teammates' houses and they were throwing the ball around. He didn't know he had it and gave it to 3 more players that tested positive, and then they put the shutdown on the Tennessee Titans season.
Right.
And I think the NFL should look into it, and I think they should punish them for that, because at the end of the day, they were just looking out for themselves and not thinking about other people around them. And what's going to happen is that bye week that they were supposed to get, they have to play a game, and it's going to be more wear and tear on these players, because instead of having a later bye week like they're supposed to get, they have to sit there and play a game when they could have just worked that at home. They could have stayed home, run around the block, lift weights, all that stuff. But instead, they wanted to break the rules. Look at the NBA. When these players left the bubble, like the player from the Houston Rockets, he left the bubble because he went to the strip club, from what I read, and he snuck the lady back into the hotel room and was sent home by the lead and the owner of the Houston Rockets.
I think I heard about that.
And I'm just sitting there like, dude, you're making millions of dollars, and all you had to do is sit in a bubble, because their season was done because of LeBron James and the Lakers and Anthony Davis. They couldn't stop the two big Twin Towers. They couldn't stop them. Instead of sitting there being smart about it, finishing your season, you go there and then you screw over your own teammates. How's your teammates going to feel about this when you're a free agency next year? They're going to look at you like, dude, you screwed us over. Why should we bring you back on to the team?
Mm-hmm.
Same thing as hockey. Some of these players that went into the bubble league, some of them played, and if I remember right, there was a goaltender from the Boston Bruins that did the quarantine, and after they won their first series, he sat there and actually put his family first and informed the team that he was not going to play the rest of the season because he just had 2 newborns and he didn't want to give them the virus.
Right, yeah.
So he went back home.
I mean, that's a smart thing to do. I mean, especially when you have a newborn, you can survive with the... If you're a big ball player like that, you're making millions, you got to be saving that money, right? So you're able to afford taking a season off.
Yeah, exactly. And he did the right thing by putting his family first, where a lot of these players are not, and they don't really think about what they're doing. And, it's all new for everyone. No one knows what to do. Everyone doesn't want to sit there and have to live by all these rules when you're making this kind of money. But instead of breaking them, to say, form your team, hey, I don't want to be here no more. I want to be with my family. I feel like this is the best thing for me and my family, so I'm going to go back home and leave the bubble. And he should have done that instead of going to a strip club and then sneaking that girl back in.
Right.
And the funny part was he tried to blame it on his roommate. It was for him because he had a wife and the family members back home.
Right.
And, it's just people sometimes don't think about what they're doing and putting other people's lives in risk. Like I'm a Spurs fan for basketball. Our coach is, I believe he's like 67 years old, and these players know that if they leave and they catch the virus, they give it to him, it's going to kill him.
Yeah.
And if I remember correctly, during the season, Popovich had lost his wife.
Good game.
Good game, man. He lost his wife to a car accident that, literally killed him, where he wasn't a coach for, I believe it was like 2 or 3 weeks. And then they got into the bubble, and, they listened to what the NBA's rules they had set down.
Right.
And if I was the NFL, I would sit there and do exact same thing as the NHL did and NBA did. NHL, they played in Canada for they played 2 stadiums. One was for the Western Conference.
Yes.
Another one was in Toronto, was for the Eastern Conference. That worked out perfectly well because no one in NHL hockey tested positive until they went back home. And if I remember right, a player from NHL just tested positive, but it's been over. That team didn't make it, but that's been over for about a week now.
Mm-hmm.
As the Tampa Bay Lightning beat the Dallas Stars for the cup. And the NBA is still going on right now, where no one's tested positive and it's been safe, and they're inside. I
No one's
believe it's
breaking
by
protocol. Everyone's being safe. Everyone's yep. Mm-hmm.
yeah, and I believe it's by Disney World if I remember right. It's in Orlando, and they're keeping everyone in a little bubble, making it safe. And I think that's what you're supposed to do. That they should look into doing that. Keeping yeah, I get you have your division teams where, like example, Arizona Cardinals are playing against the Jets today in New York. Instead of doing that, why don't you have you know them play only their division teams and make it more than just you play what 2 games against each other, like the
Right.
Patriots and Jets play 2 games. Instead of doing that, make it so they play each other, the 8 times, and whoever's in the first and second place move them to the playoffs, but keep it at a neutral stadium for the conference, because I think that would be a lot more safer than having these players and these teams travel all over the place. Like,
Mm-hmm.
the Dolphins just traveled, or Seattle Seahawks just traveled to play the Dolphins last week. And, you know, is that safe? It could be safe. We don't really know. No one's came back testing positive. But instead of making these long flights, what they should do is make these NFL teams play only the divisional teams in an 8 game series, and just move them up like that.
Yeah, I see
I
what you're
mean,
saying.
that's what NBA, even the Major League Baseball is doing that right now. You have teams for the as coming up. You have 4 teams playing, but they're playing in neutral stadiums where no one's going in there, and they're trying to keep them safe. And I think with what happened to Tennessee Titans, they should look into that, because the Tennessee Titans broke rules, and if you break rules, you have to pay for it. It's like you
Right.
going to the store and stealing a candy bar. Someone sees you, they're definitely going to tell, "Hey, this kid's still a candy bar," and they're going to get the cops involved.
Right.
And I think the Tennessee Titans broke the rules, so they should have a punishment, even if it's just losing their season or losing a draft pick.
I mean,
Something needs to
if
be
they're
done.
canceling the season, like every team is automatically going to get that win.
Yeah, exactly. And I think they should do that. I really think they should cancel the season. I mean, yeah,
Right.
they're 3-0,
Mm-hmm.
but you have to pay for what you did. You can't
Yep.
sit there and get off scotch-free.
You got to be responsible for your actions.
Yeah, exactly. And, I just sometimes I wonder if these people actually come down hard on people, because there's times where you can see, for example, Houston Astros, they got caught cheating. What happened to them? They lost their head coach, they lost their owner, they lost their draft picks, 2
Mm-hmm.
of them this year, and got a fine. And, they came down heavily on them, where if they don't come down heavily on the Tennessee Titans, it's like they got away from
Exactly.
it literally doing nothing. And
Exactly.
it's not fair. And it's not fair to other teams that are following the rules and staying home and work, like Patriots. They can't do nothing right now. They can't go work out. They can't practice together.
Yeah, they closed
They
their
can't do
practice
anything.
field. Yep.
Yeah, all they do is they do the Zoom call with their coach, talking over plays, and that's all they can do. And yeah, that can help your team, stuff like that. But they just have to be punished, I think. And most people may agree, may not agree about it, but I just don't want to see them get away with doing this and being like, "Oh yeah,
Yeah,
we can get away with doing
I
this."
think they just should cancel the Titan season. If I think if players are breaking protocol, if a team is breaking protocol, there needs to be a punishment, and canceling a season, even like just canceling the game, forfeiting the game, and just giving that team that win, just forfeiting is enough punishment. But if a team's gonna continuously break protocol, then yeah, cancel the season. But I think canceling a season is like pretty much the last thing you would probably do. I think forfeiting games would probably be the better option. But I mean, it is what it is. NFL's doing its own thing, and I guess we'll just see what happens there.
Yeah, exactly. I know it'll take a little time for them to investigate this and make sure everything that was said is true and not just other teams saying stuff. Because if you remember, Doc Rivers was the head coach of the Clippers, and when they're in the bubble with the Lakers, the head coach was playing jokes and trying to get LeBron James out of the bubble as he was with the Lakers, and they wanted an easy way to win the NBA championship, and as we
Well,
tell, they lost to the Nuggets, but he was playing a joke trying to get LeBron James kicked out of the bubble, saying he was doing this and doing that.
well, speaking of the Lakers, we got Game 6 of the NBA Finals tonight with the Lakers and the Heat.
Man, after watching the last game, I honestly think it's going to go to Game 7 because Jimmy Butler put his heart out in the game last night, and I think the players that the Heat have saw that.
But again, Jimmy Butler's one man. Like, there's only so much that he can do. Lakers, they got a full team over there. They got a full stacked team. Heat, man, they're doing good. Jimmy Butler, man, I love that guy. No matter what team he's playing on, I'm a fan of Jimmy Butler. I loved him whenever he was with the Bulls. That's my team. Kind of upset that the Bulls let him go, but Jimmy Butler's on the bigger and better things. He's now in the finals. He's doing good, but man, there's only so much that he can do.
Yeah, and that's true. There's only so much he can do. I know both of the Heat wins that they've had, if I remember correctly, Jimmy Butler has put out a triple-double.
Yeah.
But it might be easier for them to win tonight just because there is a report Anthony Davis might not be fully healthy to play tonight as he rolled his ankle up in the last game. And if he doesn't play tonight, I think the Heat should take advantage of the paint area and get going and keep it going from the last game and build that momentum up to actually knock off the Lakers.
Well, in that Game 5, I know Danny Green missed a late 3 in Game 5, and him and his fiance have received death threats on social media because of it.
I've seen this happen before when Alabama versus Auburn. The kicker from Alabama had missed a field goal to win the game, and if I remember correctly, the field goal was out of his range. I believe it was a 57-yard field goal. And he and his families received the threat letters. To me, that's not fair.
It's nonsense.
Yeah, Danny Green has helped the Lakers make it to where they are now. It wasn't just all LeBron James. It wasn't just all Anthony Davis. Danny Green, yeah, he's bounced around the league, from being drafted out of North Carolina. He's been around the league for I don't know how many years, but he was actually with the Spurs, and he's one of those players that when he's red hot, he can knock down all these threes.
Mm-hmm.
And when he's ice cold, he'll miss threes. And I think sometimes players go through stretch where, if you saw the shot, he didn't shoot it well. Like, it was kind of thrown up there.
Sometimes the emotions in big games like this just get the best of you.
Yeah, exactly. Like, for me, I played high school football. I played on a team called Desert High School. We went to the state championship game against Hamilton. They were the number 1 team in Arizona. They scored the most points. I believe they were averaging 42 points per game to our 23 points per game. We just had a stellar defense that year that kept us in games. And with 50 seconds left in the game, they marched down to our 47-yard line with 3 seconds left, kicked a 47-yard field goal to win the game.
Yeah.
And they beat us that game 10-9. And it's the worst feeling losing something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't get threat letters from other people saying, "Oh, you guys should have won this." And I think at the moment of the game, you want to be the big player, you want to win, you want to make the shot for your team, go home, celebrate, and all this. Look at Michael Jordan. I remember he quoted something saying that he missed over 1 million shots in his career.
Right.
But did he ever receive threat letters from people? No. And he was one of the greatest players to play. I'm not saying Danny Green is like that, but he missed 1 shot. What if he comes back revenge and goes off tonight for 40 points and hits a game winner three. Are those same people that sent threat letters going to sit there and send letters apologizing? Probably not. They're just
No.
going to be happy that the Lakers had won. Because right now, everyone wants the Lakers to win because of what happened to Kobe Bryant at the beginning of the year. And I understand,
You got those
that would be
diehard
amazing.
fans that like their emotions or like they run deep with the team, and to see their team like lose, especially like with what happened to Kobe, everyone wants the Lakers to win just to kind of celebrate his legacy. But at the same time, like winning the game, winning the finals is not gonna bring him back. It's one of those where these fans just need to learn how to lose.
Exactly. If that was Kobe Bryant missing that shot, do you think he would receive any threat letters? No,
Absolutely not.
not at all. They would be like, okay, Kobe, you'll be back next game to help them win. Like the kicker from Alabama, they sent him so much threat letters. I believe he actually quit the football team and told Nick Saban, hey, I don't want to play no more because of these letters that my family's received. And I get he missed the field goal to win a game because Auburn returned that missed field goal into a touchdown to beat Alabama in the
Right.
Iron Bowl game between Alabama and Auburn. But it's going to happen. Not everyone is perfect in this world. You can
Exactly.
go spend millions of dollars on these players. Look at Bryce Harper with the Phillies. I like the Phillies. I like Bryce Harper. They pay $1 million to help them win a world championship. It doesn't all come down to one player. It's a team play. It's a team sport.
Yep.
And LeBron James took it to the hole and saw the one person wide open to try to shoot and then go in. And if you remember right, Marcus Morris actually threw a shot up to end the game where he didn't even hit it at all. And you don't see him receiving the threat letters. I just think people want to. There's diehard fans, and I understand. I'm a diehard fan, Eagles fan. This season hasn't been the greatest for us, and I blame the COVID because they didn't have their summer camp. They didn't have all the camps that they need
Yeah.
to get going
hmm
working as a team, and a lot of teams didn't get that.
And some teams
And
really need that too.
yeah, well, especially if you have a team that's never played together, you
Especially
need
when you have a
that.
lot of new
And
guys too, a lot of rookies. I know, moving into a season without any training camps or anything, it's going to take an effect on the team.
yeah, exactly. Because Danny Green was red hot during the season, and then when the COVID hit, they didn't play for the few months they didn't play. Danny Green came back, and he was kind of hot and cold mix. Like, he would have a couple good games, and then he'd have really bad games. And for him to receive those letters, it's not fair. It really isn't fair to a player that puts his heart out for your team to send him a threat letter because he can't hit one shot. He hit more shots to get him that close to the game, but he missed one shot, and you want to threaten him, send threat letters to him and his family. And do you think he wants to play with the Lakers after that? No one really knows what he's going to do after the season, but that's going to make him think, you know what, maybe I shouldn't play for Lakers because if I miss more shots, what are they going to do? What are they going to do to me later?
Right.
Are they going to come to my house and try to get me and my family? This is stuff that they have to think about. But I'm really hoping the Heat can pull it out tonight, and then I hope Jimmy Butler hits a game winner shot in Game 7 and send the Heat to win. I'd rather see the Heat win than the Lakers,
So I'm going to
just
go same,
because
yes.
it's for me. It's just because of what happened to Danny Green. That's not fair to him.
I don't like
You
the
know,
Lakers. I don't like them. So I'd rather see, and I don't like Heat either. That's kind of like the Bulls rivalry right there. But like, I I would rather see the Heat and Jimmy Butler win than the Lakers.
yeah. I'm
So
not a Lakers fan either.
I'm
Growing
hoping.
up as a Spurs and a Rockets fan, we don't like the Lakers at all.
Yeah,
And if the Lakers could choke, that'd be amazing.
I definitely don't want the Lakers to win. But NBA Finals. That's that. We got the MLB playoffs: the Astros versus the Rays, and the Dodgers versus the Braves. Who we got on those ones?
Um, I got the Astros beating the Rays, and this is why. Because I want to see all those people come out and say that the Astros cheated when there's no fans to help them. Yeah, they got caught cheating. They did get punished for what they did.
I mean, there's
But
still speculation that they're still cheating. There's a lot of people saying
Yeah.
out there that they're still cheating to try to get into the finals.
And if you saw any of the games they played during this playoff run against Minnesota, the first 2 games, they barely won. Their pitching won a game against the Oakland A's. That's a divisional rival for them, so they know how the pitchers already pitched. And it was, if I remember right, the Astros and Oakland A's and the Yankees hit more home runs in this postseason combined than it has been in the last 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
But I would love to see the Astros beat the Rays. And I would love to see the Braves beat the Dodgers. I do not like the Dodgers.
Mm-hmm.
I've never been a fan of the Dodgers. They have to buy players or make these trades and bring big name players in just to help them win. Where, look at the Rays. They don't have the best talent, but they still find ways to win.
Right.
They weren't supposed to beat the Yankees, but they somehow came out on top after losing game 1. They won the next 2 games against the New York Yankees, who has probably one of the best lineups in the league right now. And the Rays, if I remember correctly, the Rays team budget this year was $8.9 million, and the starting pitcher from the Yankees makes 3 times that amount. They just signed him from the Houston Astros this offseason.
Wow.
Garrett Cole. And he couldn't help him get on to the next game. And sometimes it happens. Sometimes you have these teams that have no money but draft these good players to turn them around.
Yeah, so you're saying the Astros and the Braves at World Series?
I want to see that matchup, and I'll give you 2 reasons why. One, they used to be a rival when the Houston Astros used to be in the NL division with the Cubs, the Cardinals. The Astros and Braves had a rival. It wasn't a big one like the Yankees and Red Sox or the Dodgers and the Giants, but they had one. And 2, both teams' players on both sides have been draft pick players that are still on a team. You know, if you bring the Dodgers into World Series, they traded for a lot of their players to help them win. Yeah, they do have some draft pick players that they brought over, but Melty Brooks was not drafted by the Dodgers. He was actually drafted by the Red Sox, traded again this year to the Dodgers to help them win.
You know, I hate to say it, but I believe it's going to be an Astros-Dodgers World Series, and man, I think the Dodgers might take it, but I mean, we might see different.
It'd be a good matchup. It'll be a good matchup just to get a repeat of what happened a few years ago when the Dodgers lost to the Astros 4-3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll just have to wait and see, but man, the way I see it in reality, Astros and Dodgers in the World Series.
Yeah, it'll be a good matchup because during the regular season, the Dodgers they took 3 games out of the 5 games against the Astros, but with Joe Kelly doing this little face towards the Astros, it'll be a good matchup to see him come back out there and face them again.
Right.
Because this team made the playoffs with a losing record, and they are, 3-4 games away from being in the World Series.
Yeah.
At a 29-31 record. Where you have the Rays at a 40 wins, 20 losses, and then you have the Dodgers. I can't remember the Dodgers and the Braves record, but I know they're both 500.
Yeah, I mean, these teams, man, they've worked the 60 games, and they somehow made it through, so...
Exactly. And a lot of the team, beginning of the year, we didn't think we were going to have a full baseball season.
I honestly didn't even think we were going to have a baseball season, to be honest.
Yeah, it took a long time for them to come to agreement. And a lot of it was just because they want to make the players want to make sure that their health was more important and they didn't have to play so many games. Because every team, every player needs a break. So if you put 162 games in 2 or 3 months, that's going to kill a team.
Right.
That's going to cause more injuries where they, that we'll do 60 games, we'll do the playoffs. And for the playoffs, they're not playing in each other's stadiums. They're playing in neutral grounds. Because if I remember correctly, the Dodgers and the Braves, I believe, are playing in the Texas Rangers' new stadium. And then the Astros and Rays are playing in the, I believe it's the, they're going to do the Padres Stadium, or it was the Dodger Stadium.
Okay.
And it's just, it's not really neutral for both teams because, one has to travel farther, but they've already been there. They've already been playing there because the Padres beat the Yankees playing in the Padres Stadium. Or the Rays and the Yankees are in Padres Stadium. Then you have the Oakland A's and Houston Astros playing the Dodgers Stadium. And then I believe the Dodgers were playing in the Texas Stadium with the Padres.
Right. Well, we'll see what happens.
What's your prediction on who's going to win it all this year?
I think it's, to be truthful, I think it's going to be Dodgers, but I would rather have the Astros take it. I just don't want the Dodgers to win, but if we're looking at reality, I think Dodgers have kind of the upper advantage here.
They do. They have the best pitching staff and one of the best lineups. I either want to see the Atlanta Braves win it or the Houston Astros win it this year. Someone, I always like to see a different team win it. I'm an Astros fan. So I want them to beat the Rays, but if it was the Rays to win the World Series, I'm okay with it.
Right.
If it's the Atlanta Braves to win it, I'm okay with it. It's someone different than the same teams year in and year out.
Look,
it's like the Patriots, not having Tom Brady. If the Patriots go to Super Bowl, you're not going to think, oh, great, Tom Brady's going to help them win. It's Cam Newton. It's something different.
Yeah, I guess we just got to wait and see, man. I wish my Cubs would have made it, but, it is what it is, and that's a whole different story I don't want to get into. I'm not ready to talk about it yet. But
like I told you before, there's always next season. You guys have a good team.
Yeah. Well, we're going to go ahead and end it here. Thank you for coming on the show today.
Oh, thank you for having me, man.
Yeah.
We talked about this, and it was great to come on the show.
Yeah, we've talked about this for a couple weeks now, so it's about time we finally got together and actually did it.
Exactly. But it was fun. Thank you for having me on your show.
Oh, yeah. Anytime. Before we head out, just want to say that for those that do have Facebook, I just have announced my Facebook page for Midnight Lunatic, and as well started a donation page, and I got my first donation from my mama. Mama, if you listening, I know you are. I love you. Thank you for the donation. I'll call you Mama Lunatic from now on. You are now Mama Lunatic. So anyone that refers to my mom, please call her Mama Lunatic, because that is her name now. And sports, man, it's been crazy. Everything's happening.
It's just been a crazy year, and it's not even over yet.
Man, we're just gonna have to wait and see, man. It's been crazy. It's been a ride. But thanks again for coming on the show. Midnight Lunatic signing out. I'm about to enjoy the rest of my day. Hey, it was a good game. We're playing baseball right now. I won 2-0, just saying. But good game. Good game. Yeah, I had 2 homers, man. I was surprised. I was like, what? I didn't want to say nothing. I didn't want to interrupt our little podcast, but I was a little excited. But anyways,
your first win. Good job.
All right, we're out. Guess we'll see you next time. Man, it's been back-to-back episodes. Look. Okay, I said I wasn't gonna do back-to-back episodes, but the past 3 weeks, I felt like I had to go back-to-back. 2 weeks just feels so long. I don't want to wait 2 weeks. So if I can do back-to-back episodes, that's what I'm gonna do. So yeah, that is what it is.
Well, man, you do a great show.
I appreciate you right there. Appreciate it. Well, Midnight Lunatics signing off. Stay safe out there. I love y'all. We'll see you next time. Peace.